I recently went on a walk and started reflecting on how classic literature has changed my mind and my life. When I say classic literature, I mean everything that is still available and in print that is written before the 1900s. And I know a lot of people see classic literature as the ancient classics, and then you have the readers who see classic literature as everything that's still called classic and that is still in print today. When I say classics in this video, I mean everything printed before the 1900s. I cannot overstate the impact that the classics have had on my mindset, on my life, on my lifestyle, on basically everything. One of the things that they did for me was making me more curious. And by this I mean the classics do not take your hand and guide you. The author expects you to understand complex matters, complex characters, complex things in general. And as a reader, a modern reader especially, you are forced to go slower and to look up things that you don't understand. And while the reader of the time knew exactly what was taking place politically, economically, we have to do a little bit more work and maybe do some research to properly understand what was going on. Or maybe we have to look up some words, some vocabulary. Maybe we need to look up certain events, certain historical figures that are mentioned. There will be religious debates or philosophical references that we don't know about and that we have to research. The process of looking things up becomes a habit, and then that habit becomes a personality trait, and the personality trait grows into a worldview. I want to be curious. I want to look up things. I want to be challenged when I'm reading a book. And yes, of course, a book has to entertain me at some level, and that makes it harder for me to go back to books that simply entertain. It is nice that a book entertains, but I just need something that sparks my curiosity as well. I want to pause, I want to look things up, I want my worldviews to be challenged, and I just simply want to grow, which leads me to the second point, and that is self-development and growing as a person. I feel like I'm constantly before a mirror, that I'm constantly being confronted with myself while reading a classic. And just as I would be consuming healthy and nourishing food, I feel like when I read a classic novel that I'm feeding myself, that I will nurture myself, and that it will give me energy. I don't think that reading makes someone a better person necessarily. We have enough examples throughout history to disprove that. But I do think that a society that reads could possibly make a huge difference. They make me see that there is so much to know, and it doesn't intimidate me. Maybe sometimes it does, but it especially humbles me because there is so much that I don't know. And that is something that constantly challenges me because I want to know more, I want to learn more. So yes, I feel like I'm constantly confronting myself because of the complex characters, the issues that they face. And they make me think about questions, and they force me to answer questions that I would normally not answer or think about. And because of this process of thinking and rethinking and changing my mind about things and trying to be open-minded, this, I feel, really impacted me as a person. My next point is history. I'm constantly reminded that nothing is new, and people of the past also face the same challenges that we face today. Societies have collapsed and have been rebuilt. Beauty has been lost and has been rediscovered. Political chaos is nothing new. And that leads me to point 4, human behavior. If there's anything that never changes, that is us humans and the way we are. And I think the classics do this especially well. They show real people. They show real issues. The character work is complex and deep. You are inhabiting a mind that is not modern, that lived in another time period, that had different values, different fears, different dreams and expectations. And I feel like I know people better, that I know all kinds of people better. And somehow it helps me be more patient, helps me see things more clearly, and it helps me perceive more, it helps me understand better. And yes, I feel in general that I know people better. And number 5, my next point, is probably the most important and impactful one, and that is that I feel more grateful than ever for the luxury that we have, that people of the past did not enjoy. And I'm thinking about medical care. I'm thinking about diseases that we can now prevent and that people of the past died from. I'm talking about working conditions, think about the Industrial Revolution. I'm thinking about child labor and slavery, and things as simple as having a warm shower, flushing toilets, traveling by car or by train is now so easy. It's so easy to travel from one point to another, and just basic communication. You can pick up your phone, you can order something online and it's in your house the next day. And it's just so astonishing to me, since I've been reading so many classics, that I'm basically spending half my time in the past. And it really makes me realize how lucky we are. They were dreaming about things that we now have, and it breaks my heart to sometimes see how ungrateful we have become, and just how in general we take everything for granted. Seeing how things were in the past, and I'm not talking about just reading one historical novel. This comes over time, I think, and you also get this from reading biographies and reading nonfiction. It just, after a while, you really start seeing how ungrateful we are as a society. And to me, it is just astonishing how comfortable modern life is. I think most of us only realize this when things are taken away from us. Same goes for health, for example. You don't wake up every morning and think, oh, I feel so good today. I'm not sick. I'm healthy. My head is not hurting. You only feel that way when you're actually sick. When you're sick, you're thinking, I wish I was healthy. I wish I was healthy. There's nothing in the world that will make me happier than just feel healthy. And I've experienced this myself because I've had some medical issues in the past and I was just feeling horrible. I also suffer from migraines, but lately that's been going great. And I'm so grateful. And I truly have a lot of moments where I wake up and think, I feel great. And that's all I need, My health is okay. When someone asks me, how are you doing? And I say, I'm healthy, so I cannot complain about anything. But I am digressing, I'm sorry. And let's go to number 6, my life goal. So something that changed along the way for me as well is I want to be well read in everything that has been written before the 1900s. At this point in my life, I feel very, very strongly about that, and it gives me purpose, it gives me a goal, and it feels wonderful to have this goal. Number 7 is reading classics made me a better author. And I think this is a bold statement to make, but I can say this because I've been writing since I was a teenager, but my writing has changed profoundly since I started reading classic literature. And I can clearly see an evolution. Others can see it as well. And I can say 100% that it is because of the classics. It is because they are so well written. And of course, only the best survived. Time has done its filtering and leaves in print the quality works. And I started also to realize that what you read matters greatly for your skills as an author. Number 8 is critical thinking, and this is partly tied to what I already talked about. I think they challenge me, and critical thinking is something that we have to train and keep training, because it's not an easy thing to do and can be very scary to change your mind about certain things, especially when those convictions have been there for years. But I've made a separate video on critical thinking if you are interested. I just think that I've just seen such an evolution in my critical thinking, and I also think that the credit for that goes to the classics. Number 9, we're almost there, and I'm sure that I'm forgetting a lot of points, but journaling. I've been journaling all my life, since I was a child, actually. And I used to think that journaling was just writing about what was going on inside of me, what I was going through, my day, and so on. So I used to journal that way. But since the classics were so demanding, I started taking notes. They became more and more detailed, and they became a kind of journaling, and I get so much out of this kind of journaling. So for example, when I'm reading a book and there's a passage that really resonates with me and that makes me think and reflect, I could just journal about that passage, and I never would get to share my thoughts on that certain topic if I wouldn't have been reading about it. So yes, journaling about what I'm reading has really changed my journaling for the better, because I feel that this kind of journaling helps me in my journey of self-development and self-improvement as well. And then the final point, I'm a little bit scared to admit this because I may sound like a snob or something, but they make me feel less alone. They give me this kind of intimacy that I sometimes miss in real life. I just feel that they keep me sane, that the conversations in my books are sometimes more valuable to me than the conversations that I have in everyday life, on social events, and so on. And deep conversations are rare because they require a certain level of vulnerability. You have to know yourself well, and you have to be open to change and to critical thinking. And that is a skill that a lot of people lack, if I can say that. And that creates a kind of companionship that is rare nowadays. And those books, those conversations that I have with those authors, those characters, they create something that I truly, deeply miss in life. And I can enjoy those conversations without having to be social, which is a plus because I am kind of an introvert and I don't like going out anyway. But if I do have to be social, then I prefer having deep conversations, not conversations about the weather or things at work. I want to talk about what is going on inside of you, how you see the world, and just vulnerable conversations that are honest and raw. If you haven't yet, then I hope that you will give the classics a try. And if you enjoy this type of content, there is more on my channel, so feel free to subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next week.